Welcome back to The Grind. In this video, we are going to talk about the brand new feature, Perch Resistances, where you can add additional dragons to your perch in order to boost resistance against certain dragon classes as well as dragon elements. However, this will come at a cost of weaknesses against different classes and elements as well. So let's take a look at this update from their blog and figure out a little bit more of the details about this feature. So basically what they're saying is they want to give a way that we can use old dragons to make them more relevant. One, by applying them to your base to specifically target against the most current strong dragons, but also in order to make a way that you want to keep more dragons relevant in your roster so that when you come up against a base that has resistance against one of your top dragons, you can use another one instead. So how will this work? Once the perch is maxed, we will be able to add 4 additional slots of lineage dragons to that perch to apply more resistances. So the resistance slots are unlocked in at different levels of the perch. So at perch level 10, you can put one dragon in one slot. At level 2, you'll unlock a second slot. At level 40, you'll get a third slot. And at level 60, you'll get a 4th slot. So you can have up to 4 dragons slotted in the perch. Now, this does not act the same as when you put a dragon on the perch. And so I'm going to say your perch dragon is on the perch, and then your resistant dragons are kind of in the perch. Now, this is an important distinction to make because the dragons that are on your perch, so your perch dragon gives you special class bonuses like the shield, the shielding of a tower that the warrior gives, or the extra super shot bonus that I think it's a sorcerer gives, and then the hunter, I think, does extra super shot damage. Those things are only applied by the perch dragon, the one that is on your perch, the single dragon that is on your perch. And that dragon has gear, and that gear also boosts your base still. So that hasn't changed. However, putting a dragon on your perch used to give you a class resistance as well. That will no longer be effective. You will no longer get a class resistance from the perch dragon that is on your perch. Now, when you put resistance dragons in your perch, you will get different resistances depending on what class and element that dragon is. Now, when you can put all 4 on, you can mix and match to customize it a little bit, but basically, whatever class it is between hunter, sorcerer, and warrior, you will get a 5% bonus to one and weakness to another, and and depending on what element it is, you'll get a 5% boost to one and weakness to another. And those areas that will be affected will cover the same area that the perch typically covers. So for the first perch, it'll be those first 3 islands, the second perch, the next 3 islands, and then the last perch will cover the last 2 islands. And the dragons, before they can be put on in the perch as a resistance dragon in one of the slots, they must be experted. It doesn't matter which tier dragon it is. They can all be green tier dragons. All that matters is the class of the dragon and the element of the dragon. So dragons of any rarity or any tier can be slotted for the same 5% resistance. However, those dragons that you slot will not be able to be used in attacks. So you won't be able to use it in assault. You won't be able to use it in regular attacks. So that is something to keep in mind. Now, the element resistance provided by dragons in the standard perch assignment will no longer function, which is kind of what I mentioned earlier. Mega perch resistance will take its place. Additionally, elemental totems will stack with perch resistances. And keep in mind, during war, they already are putting out class and or element resistances. So that is going to be in addition to this. I can only presume, although I wish they had specified that here. So dragon class resistance modifiers. Perch will provide base buffs or debuffs against dragons based on the class of the dragon on the perch. So if a hunter is slotted, it will provide a 5% base buff against sorcerers and a 5% base debuff against warriors on the island associated with the perch that it was slotted in. And these resistances can stack, which will mean that if you slot 4 hunters, you will provide a 20% buff against sorcerers and a 20% debuff against warriors. So slotting the following dragons, they give out some examples here. So when you put a hunter on the perch, sorcerer will have a plus 5% bonus, a boost. You're basically increasing the resistance by 5% against sorcerers, but decreasing the resistance by 5% against warriors. So when you put hunters on the perch, your base will be more susceptible to be attacked by warriors. And then for warriors, if you put a warrior on the perch, your base will be more resistant to hunters, but weaker to sorcerers. A sorcerer on the perch makes you stronger against warriors, but weaker against hunters. And then invokers on the perch will provide a resistance of 3% against sorcerers, hunters, and warriors. But with an invoker on the perch, you will have a 10% weakness to all invokers. And so that is something you want to keep in mind. That is a very significant debuff of your base against invokers, and there are some strong invokers out there, so I wouldn't take that lightly. Now, dragon elements are very similar. So when you put a dragon, that element has a fire element, then you will have a bonus resistance of 5% against dark dragons, but a weakness against earth dragons by 5%. Earth dragons on your perch will boost your base by 5% against fire, but weaken your base by 5% against ice. Wind, you'll have a resistance of 5%, but a weakness of, wind will give you a resistance of 5% against ice and a weakness of 5% against dark. An ice dragon slotted in your perch will give you a 5% boost against earth dragons, but weaken your base against wind dragons. And then a dark dragon on your perch will give 5% resistance to wind dragons and 5% weakness to fire dragons. So right now I've heard a lot of people worried about Naja, for example. So if you want to boost against the Earth class like Naja, then you want to put Ice element dragons on your perch. Now, I do have a different layout if you want to look at these a little bit more closer. It's not the nicest format. I think Flame has a better one, nicer format, which they posted on the forums, but you can see the consequence of each in a little bit more short, succinct way, but you can also just go in game and look at that, which we'll take a look at now. So now when you go in game and click on your perch, you will have additional tab for resistances. You will still have the rider and dragon tabs, which you can see, but if you click on the resistance tab, you can see here all the available resistances that you have activated and the available slots you have. So I can only have 2 slots because I did not level up my perch to level 40 yet. But with this buff or boost to perches, I might consider doing that now. So what I have done here, when you click on one slot, you can select which dragon you want to be there. So if I choose to put Noctua on right now, I will go this. You can see all your resistances before and after making this change. So right now I'm gonna have Balder selected here, and that's gonna give me an additional 5% resistance against sorcerers, but then it would give me a 0 boost against hunters, and then I will still be remaining with a 5% weakness to warriors. And then below you can see what happens with my element resistances. So with the addition of Balder, I have no resistance against wind, but I would also have no resistance against earth, and then I would have 5% against fire and weakness of 5% against ice. Now, I'm not sure which dragon I thought I had Balder. Oh, so that was me removing Balder. That's what happened when I removed Balder. So Sorry, still getting the hang of this thing. So now if I want to put Balder back on, this tells me what's going to change. So I'm going to gain a 5% boost to hunters. So hunters will be weaker against my base. So if I select that, assign this dragon from your will remove it from your roster and make you unable to attack while assigned. So I'm going to click yes and assign it. So now I have, with Desi on there as well, I have a total of 5% resistance against all hunters, but I have a 5% weakness against all warriors. I do not have any effect against sorcerers, and then because of the elements I have assigned, I end up with 5% weakness to wind dragons, 5% resistance to earth dragons, 5% resistance to fire dragons, and 5% weakness to ice dragons. So I just kind of put these on as a test. This is kind of a less committed to one thing. I don't really want my base to be super weak to one thing, but I have heard some reports that putting full-out resistance against one element or one class makes it nearly impossible or impossible for that dragon to get through, which is fairly concerning. I'm not sure if they're going to reevaluate the strength of these resistances or not, but if they do make any adjustments or changes, I will definitely make an updated video to get that information out to you. But I did want to get this out as quick as possible so that you could all see this information right away, because this has been freshly put into the game. It is live, and so you can go in and mess around with this yourself and test it out and put some extra resistances on your base, but do be mindful of those weaknesses, because there may be some surprising dragons that may start to walk all over your base once you start to select for specific dragons and resist against them. So I hope this video was helpful, and I will see you in the next video.